Here's a highlight from a recent episode of Booked on Rock. Our guest is Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Dennis Dunaway, bassist for the legendary Alice Cooper group, who just recently released their first studio album together in over 50 years. I believe it's 52 years exactly. The Revenge of Alice Cooper. You guys have been close all along. The band broke up, but it wasn't one of those things where there was a lot of trash talking in the media or anything like that. I mean, you guys remain pretty cool, right?
You know, a band is family. You know, we were in the same car, in the same hotel room, and the same stage and everything for many years. So, you know, families all have certain things, you know, that nobody's perfect, but you make it work. And we've all been friends. I mean, Alice and I became friends when he was 15 or 16 and I was 17. So, you know, we didn't get lawyers when things started going awry, thinking that we started as friends, just a bunch of high school buddies that had a dream, and we achieved that dream. We made it to the top of the glittery rock pile, and we didn't want to lose our friendship over it. And also, at the time, we thought if we get lawyers involved, that'll be the nail in the coffin for anything ever happening again. We didn't know it would take 52 years, but,
Yeah.
but that was the thinking at the time.
There's a story that you had told in one interview, which I love about Glenn, when you went over to his house and you were hanging out in his bedroom and playing some records, playing some Stones records. I mean, you guys go back that far.
That's how I learned to play bass. When I bought my bass, Glenn went with me. We went to Montgomery Ward and bought a beginner's bass. And then I went over to Glenn's house and I didn't even know how to tune it. You know, I barely had an idea of what bass was because my record player at the time, you couldn't hear bass hardly at all. The only time I would notice bass was if I heard a jukebox somewhere, you know. But Glenn, you know, the very first thing he did, he sat me down and he had his guitar and we sat down by the record player and he said, okay, before we start, always remember one thing. The most important thing is the feel. And then he taught me how to tune. And then we learned through mostly Rolling Stones, early Rolling Stones and Chuck Berry records and blues patterns. And that's the other link to Glenn on this album. We have some songs that we wrote that are very Glenn Buxton from that era, the kind of stuff that he liked, including What Happened to You. But yeah, but you know, first of all, I had to get Glenn out of bed because it was a weekend. And Glenn has always been the hardest person in the world to wake up. And so I went to his house and I didn't really know him that well yet, you know. He was a tough guy.
Your bicycle. You got on your bicycle and
I rode my bicycle and carried my bass. Yeah. And then I went in and his mom said, "Oh, he's down the hall there, the first door on the left, you know, go wake him up." And I went in Glenn's bedroom and all I saw, he had tin foil. This is Phoenix, Arizona. So to block out the sun, he had tin foil over all of the window panes. And then he's totally covered up, except one foot sticking out, and TV guides all over the floor.
Of course.
And his guitar case. But I had to wake him up, you know, and all I could get out of him was go away, you know. But I was persistent, and that wasn't the last time I had to wake him up.
Oh man! Now Alice, did he at the time Vincent Furnier or Fernier? What's the pronunciation?
Well, his family pronounces it Furnier, but Alice pronounces it Fernier.
Did he stand out right away? When did you first? You were in class together.
Yeah, he had charisma, except nobody would ever in a million years think that he would be a lead singer of a band. He was just this skinny little stick with a big nose, you know, but he's always had a knack for making anything sound more interesting. He would enhance even, I used to say he can make opening a can of tuna fish sound interesting. But he wouldn't go and try to collect people to listen to him. He'd just always be in the classroom, and then next thing you know, he'd be surrounded by people because he'd be telling stories. And Glenn used to be Glenn and I would be standing off to the side, and Glenn used to have this thing where he'd go, after Alice would be telling a story, Glenn would go, 25. That meant 25% enhancement on the story.
Well, Alice is a great storyteller. I just saw a recent interview with him, and you could tell he loves to tell stories, and he tells them as good as anybody.
Absolutely. And you can't, I've heard them all so many times, and you just never get tired of them.
Yeah.
I just spoke today. I spoke to our high school art teacher, Mrs. Sloan, who is about to become 100 years old.
Wow.
And I spoke to her for the first time since 1967. I told her, and she didn't know this, that Alice and I decided to start a band when we were in her art class, because the Beatles had just come out, and we decided we wanted to start a band, and we wanted to incorporate ideas like Salvador Dali, surrealism, and the New York pop art scene into a band. And that happened in her classroom.
Wow. 100.
Yeah.
How about that, man? The final chapter of the book covers the 2011 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction. Since then, there have been the occasional reunions, and now we have this amazing new album that came out in July with the original band. I was going to ask if you thought about adding chapters for an updated edition, but I know that your wife, Cindy, may really be the answer to that question, because she's working on something that might be considered like a sequel to your book.
Cindy kept daily diaries. Not only that, but she has all of the letters that her and Neil wrote home to their mother, telling her what was going on every step of the way.
And for those who may not know, she's been with the band
since
pretty much
1967, since before we did Pretty's for You.
Yep.
Yeah. Cindy was there when we were writing the songs for Pretty's for You. She got a job and helped feed us and designed our look, and was basically our therapist.
Yeah.
whatever the band needed, it was a team, and we all worked together. We had the roadies, we had the management, we had everything was all for this vision that we shared, and we were driven to achieve it. And there was no roadblock that we never would throw in the towel, ever. Even when the band took a roll, van full of band members, full of all of our equipment, even a washing machine in the back, and we rolled 3 times across the San Bernardino freeway coming into LA in the 9 o'clock in the morning rush hour, and our equipment was destroyed, and we didn't have money to buy more equipment. So, but did we throw in the towel? No, we figured it out. And that's like Frank Zappa used to say, if you stay together long enough, you'll make it.